The Aerial Phenomena Investigation Team received security footage in 2012 from the Sheraton Falls View Hotel in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. The footage captured two tall men wearing black trench coats, black fedora hats, walking into the hotel. This footage is the only known recording of what people have known to be the infamous Men in Black.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa, and today's topic is the Men in Black. And this is one of my favorite movies. And quickly, before we get into the spooky TikToks, this is what I have for the mukbang portion of the video. So I have one of my favorites that I probably ate back in the day when I was watching this movie. I have a nachos Lunchable fun pack, and then as a little side I have some extra tahini peach rings. Alright, let's go get a spicy snack and let's get into these spooky videos. And again, today's topic is the Men in Black. Okay, first video.
Since the Mermaids at Area 51 video did so well and you guys love government conspiracies, let's do another story related to government cover-ups. This story came from someone named Kate, and she says that last summer her neighbor in Idaho was taken by Men in Black, and he came back, but he came back different. Kate says she lives in Wallace, Idaho, which she described as a small town tucked in the mountains. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. There's not a whole lot going on. 3 years ago, Kate moves into a new house in Wallace, and she immediately meets the neighbor, Mark, because he's always outside and he's working on his truck. He's a retired miner, he lives alone, he doesn't speak a lot, but he's pleasant enough. Anytime she goes out to get the mail, he waves at her, for instance. She doesn't know a whole lot about him. He's friendly enough, but sometimes she does notice that he just stares off in the distance, but she's just like, okay, like he's just reminiscing on his life. One day she has some friends over. Her husband, and their friends are all out back drinking. They come around on the driveway, and Mark's outside working on his truck. So they're like, hey, do you want a drink? He takes one from them, and then they start talking. And the only thing she knows about him to bring him in the conversation is that he was an old miner. So she's like, can you tell us any stories about the mine? And all he says is that there's things in the mines that they don't want you to know about. And everyone's immediately intrigued, and they're like, what kind of things? And he's like, things more valuable than gold, things they shouldn't dig up, and nobody listens. And they're like, what things? And he's like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. After that, he says, thanks for the drink, I'm going to go inside. The only other thing that sticks out in her mind as strange is the fact that Mark kept a notebook filled with odd sketches and mathematical equations, and they didn't realize this at first. But her husband comes in one day, I guess they shared a driveway, and he was outside. He finds this notebook, and it's open in the middle of the driveway, and he thinks it fell out of Mark's truck or he left it out there by accident. So he picks it up, he starts flipping through it, and nothing in it makes sense to him. As he's looking at it, Mark comes out of his garage and he runs over and he's like, that's mine. And the husband's like, oh, what is this? He's thinking maybe it's related to the truck or something. And Mark's just like, those are maps. If they come looking for me, don't let them get me. I guess he says it in a way to her husband that could be interpreted as like kind of funny or kind of sarcastic, but he doesn't know how to take it. He's just like, okay, man, here's your notebook back. A couple months later, in the middle of the night in August, she said they were woken up in their bedroom window by like bright lights. And so they go to the window to see what's going on. And there's 7 unmarked black SUVs parked outside of Mark's house. She said immediately she knew these were government vehicles. Like that's just how they look. And she said their headlights did not reflect the way that normal headlights do. I'm not exactly sure what she means by that, but she also said they were completely silent. So her and her husband are at the window and they're kind of watching, being nosy. And her husband's like, oh, I think he's getting raided. And then they see all these men come out in black suits with Mark, and he gets in the back of one of these SUVs and they drive off. Did say he wasn't restrained or in handcuffs or anything like that. He seemed to go willingly. After 3 days, she gets home from work and she sees that Mark is outside as usual working on his truck, like he's back. She kind of wants to know what's going on, so she goes up to him. She's like, hey, Mark, are you okay? And she said his eyes were off. Like they did not blink completely. He seemed to stare too long at her, and he was like, yeah, I'm good. After that, she said he stopped working on his truck. She never saw him outside anymore. She said she noticed he stopped drinking coffee on his porch, which he had done every single day that she had lived there. And then whenever she saw him in the street, he didn't wave at her anymore. He just kind of stared right through her. One day she notices all these packages are just piling up on his porch, like he hasn't been outside. She gets a little bit concerned, so she goes over there and she knocks on the door, just wanting to make sure he's okay, right? Because he lives alone. He answers the door. She says, Mark, you have all these packages. Like, I just wanted to come over and make sure you're okay. And he just stares at her for what seemed like a long time. And he says, I'm fine. And she says, well, I noticed like you've been different since, I saw you leave and then you came back. Like, is everything okay? What happened? And he said, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. 2 nights later, they wake up in the middle of the night to the same bright lights lighting up their room. So they go to the window and the same black SUVs are back. This time they can see the men in black standing on the porch. After they knock, Mark lets them in, and after a few minutes, they all come out. Mark gets in the back of one of the SUVs and they drive off again. Craziest thing is she said that they have not seen him since. His house is still there. It's not for sale. There doesn't seem to be any signs of life. No lights on. His truck is still parked in the driveway. So she starts talking to neighbors about it, obviously. And there's this other lady that's kind of a know-it-all that lives on the street, and she asks her, and she's like, it's the weirdest thing. I thought I saw him at the grocery store, so I tapped him, and I was like, hey, Mark, and he just stared at me like he had no idea who I was. This lady tells her that this man says, I'm not Mark. This lady's like, I know everyone in town. Like, why would he lie to me? Like, I know it was him, but for some reason, he didn't want to be recognized. So there's some rumor in her town, so if you're from there, I would love to know if you've heard about him. She says some people in the town say that he wasn't just a retired miner, that he collected old artifacts. Other people claim to have seen him at the old Crescent mine at night carrying a metal box with blinking lights. Other people say that he was part of some secret government project. Kate ended her email by saying, I don't really know what to make of this. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but this seems too weird to ignore, and we're all just kind of holding our breath waiting for whatever comes next.
Absolutely terrifying.
He says, something really weird happened here yesterday, and you weren't here. He said, there's a couple guys in here looking for you. And I said, couple guys, what do you mean? And he said, well, this is really hard for me to say. He said, but there's a couple really strange looking men that were here. And they kind of freaked everybody out, and they were asking questions about you. And of course, now I'm getting a little bit nervous, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, they were, I don't know how to describe them except for extremely odd looking. They were really, really tall. He said that they were identical height. They were the exact same height. They were wearing the exact same clothes, and they had the exact same faces, like they were twins. And he said they were wearing black suits, black trench coats. They were wearing like the old-fashioned Federo hats. They had extremely, extremely pale skin. And he said they came in and they looked around a little bit and they asked for you. And I said, I'm sorry, he's actually not working today. And it seemed like they didn't believe me, so they started to walk around the hotel, and shortly after they went to the tour desk, and he goes, I got busy. I started to have to bring cars around and get luggage, and by the time I came back, they were gone. But he goes, they freaked me out, and I really wanted to tell you that there were these weird guys in here looking for you. So, of course, now I'm a little bit skeptical and a little bit freaked out all at the same time. So the first thing I do is I run into my security office, because I know how to work the security system, and I rewound the cameras, and sure enough, here comes two gentlemen through the front door looking exactly how he described. Then the next day, I was talking with my tour desk, and one of them asked to talk to me. She came in my office, the same as my bellman, and she said, I need to tell you about something that happened. I heard that you heard that there were some men looking for you. And I said, yes. And she said, they asked a few questions about you, and they said strange things that I didn't understand, and they were talking about government and conspiracies, and none of it made any sense to me. But she goes, they were very, very scary. And I said, well, why were they scary? And she said, they had no facial hair, none. She said they had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. Their hair looked like they had a wig on, like it was attached to their hat, like it wasn't even real. And she said, and the scariest thing, their eyes were so big and so blue that they almost hypnotized me a little bit. And she goes, and you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but I swear they knew what I was thinking. I swear. And I don't think I'm crazy, but I don't even know how they could do it, and I don't know why I'm even telling you this. She goes, so I started to think about things other than you, and I don't even know if it worked. And she started to cry, and she said one more thing before she left. She said, these men, they didn't blink. Not once did I see them blink.
Right. Horrifying. Okay, write me a comment. What do you think of the Men in Black?
Men in Black are typically described as wearing black suits, being expressionless, cold, sinister, and in some cases inhuman. The Men in Black seem to only talk to two kinds of people: those who claim to have seen a UFO and those who research UFOs. They present themselves as part of a secret organization, sometimes even producing a white card with a crest and the word security on it. and in some cases, they refer to each other by number rather than name. They threaten and scare people into remaining silent about their UFO encounters and or research. Think of them as the cleaners of the extraterrestrial universe. Here are, in my opinion, the most terrifying reports of encounters with the Men in Black. The first ever recorded experience with the Men in Black came from Harold Dahl in June 1947. Harold Dahl was out on his boat in the Puget Sound where he claimed he saw 6 giant donut-shaped objects in the sky. One of the objects fell apart, spilling debris that killed his dog and injured his son. He took photos of the debris, but said they were later fogged over by a man in black who told him not to speak of the incident. The next incident comes from Robert Richardson in 1967. Robert Richardson reported that he collided with a UFO while driving at night in Toledo, Ohio. On impact, the object vanished. Richardson took home a small lump of metal that he believed was from the UFO. A week later, Richardson said he was visited by 2 men in black suits. He said the 2 men asked for the piece of metal from the site, but when Richardson informed them that he had turned it over for testing, they threatened him. Quote, "If you want your wife to stay as pretty as she is, then you'd better get the metal back." End quote. Richardson never heard from the men again and still has no idea how they knew about the metal.
Alright, I got a crazy story for you guys, and I know, the title looks crazy, title's crazy, but I was so freaked out by this story. For the longest time, I didn't tell anybody in my family about this until I was in high school. Like, that's how scared I was. And even telling you guys now, like, I have goosebumps. Like, because it still freaks me out. But essentially, when I was a kid, I lived in Everett, Washington. We lived down the street from an elementary school called Madison. So shout out to my Madison homies. And our backyard was, pretty decent size. And we'd be, back there playing with my siblings, cousins, neighbor kids, you name it, right? Just having fun. Well, on this day, I remember looking up in the sky, and I'm not sure if I remember it being a sphere-shaped or a disc-shaped object, but this thing was doing some, cool maneuvers, right? Like, to me, from what I can remember, it kind of looked like it was going in a wormhole, an outer wormhole. Like, that's how fast it was moving. And I remember looking at it, and it was doing these crazy turns. I didn't really think much of it. I remember, making a comment, oh, look up there, and, we all kind of took a look, and then, I would say the whole thing was maybe 2-3 minutes tops, right? And I don't really remember much else, right? Because we're kids. So I remember that night, in my bedroom, I shared a bunk bed with my little brother. But on this night, he wasn't sleeping in his bed. I'm pretty sure he was with his dad or out in the living room, whatever. And I'm about to go to sleep. I remember, falling asleep. And the next thing you know, because I'm on the top bunk, I hear a knock at my bedroom window. And as a kid, I'm like, oh, what? And I kind of wake up, I kind of look around, and then I hear the knock again. So I open my blinds. I don't know why I opened my blinds, but I open my blinds, and standing in my front yard are 2 people in suits. Kind of like what you would say the stereotypical Men in Black look like. These people were very pale. One of them had a top hat kind of thing going on. The other person didn't have a hat and they were bald. They were both wearing sunglasses. Now, mind you, it's dark outside. And I opened the window. Again, I don't know why, but there was something telling me to open the window. I remember that as a kid now. I remember something told me to open the blinds. Something tells me to open the window. And they start talking to me about what I saw that day. They start asking me questions like, hey, what did you see? What did you think it was? And hey, we can't have you telling anybody about this. You can't tell your family. You can't tell anybody what you saw. We'll know if you did, and we'll come back. And we will come back, and you don't want that. And I remember just sitting there from the window, kind of looking around, I was so shook. They made me promise that I wouldn't say anything. Now, the weird thing is, they wanted my promise in writing. So, I don't remember how, but there was they handed me this piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, and they had me write down my name and say, I promise I won't say anything. So I wrote my name, I promise I won't say anything. And they, said, yeah, don't make us come back. And the next thing I know, I shut the window, shut the blinds, I lay down, and I wanted to get up and go run to my parents' bedroom, but I was so scared that I didn't. Now, I don't remember how long it took for me to fall asleep, but I fall asleep. The next thing I know, I wake up, and I'm like, wow, what was that last night? I look over on my dresser. There's the paper. There's the pencil with my name, Andrew. I promise I won't say anything. And to this day, when I saw that, I was like, whoa.
This bizarre piece of footage was sent to YouTube channel Apex TV in June 2018. Viewers are calling it a visit from a real member of the Men in Black. In an unknown law firm in Alaska, a secretary inexplicably went missing one afternoon after having a strange interaction with a suited man. In the CCTV footage, you can see the secretary at the front desk typing things into a computer. That's when a tall, bald man walks in wearing a black suit. He has a peculiar demeanour and precise mannerisms. Unfortunately, there's no audio, so we don't know what's being said, but you can soon tell that the secretary becomes uneasy. At one point, she shakes her head and points to the door, as if asking the man to leave.
Whoa.
The situation escalates further, as the woman grabs a gun out of the office drawer. She stands up. The suited man lifts his hand, then tilts it to the side in a strange motion. It's as if the secretary falls into a trance, as she turns, takes the cartridge out of the gun, and places them both on the desk. The suited man gestures once more, and the woman complies, by reaching into a bag, pulling out what looks to be a camera. She then calmly walks around the desk and out the door. The suited man follows. When the video was first posted, it quickly went viral, racking up over 4 million views with more than 13,000 comments, all wondering what was going on in the footage. A lot of the comments were quick to call the man a real-life member of the infamous Men in Black, an alleged top-secret government agency that responds to paranormal events. Some even believe the agents themselves are alien hybrids that have mysterious abilities such as mind control. Others thought the whole video was staged and felt it was too good to be true, but admitted it is a curious piece of footage. So if the video is genuine, what is on the camera? Had this secretary been witness to some strange event and perhaps captured evidence that needed to be destroyed?
Okay, write me a comment. Have you ever had an experience with the Men in Black?
The real Men in Black are an unsettling presence that has been glimpsed by those unfortunate enough to witness their eerie operations. Accounts describe them as unnaturally tall and pale figures, donning immaculate black suits that seem to absorb all light. These enigmatic agents move with an unsettling grace, their movements fluid and precise, as if they are not bound by the laws of physics that govern ordinary mortals. Their faces are devoid of emotion, their eyes hidden behind opaque sunglasses that conceal any hint of humanity. Eyewitnesses report encountering these otherworldly figures in the aftermath of unexplained phenomena, such as UFO sightings or encounters with bizarre entities. The Men in Black appear suddenly, their origins unknown, and their presence sending a chill down the spines of those they interrogate. Survivors speak of being subjected to intense questioning, their memories probed and manipulated with advanced mind-altering techniques. Some claim to have experienced missing time or inexplicable lapses in their recollection, leaving them haunted by the unsettling feeling that something profound has been erased from their consciousness. Attempts to capture these agents on camera have yielded disturbing results. Photographs and video footage often depict distorted figures, their forms seemingly blurred or obscured by an inexplicable interference. In some cases, the images themselves have been corrupted, as if the mere act of documenting their existence is an affront to the natural order. The true nature of the Men in Black remains a mystery, but one thing is certain: their presence is a chilling reminder that there are forces at work in the shadows, shaping our understanding of reality and guarding secrets that defy comprehension. The truth is a fragile thing, and some are willing to go to extreme lengths to preserve the veil of ignorance.
Want to hear a strange story? Well, I'm going to tell you one if you didn't swipe, so here it is. In the late 1960s, a man in the Midwest reported something that didn't feel dramatic at the time, just deeply unsettling. He had recently spoken publicly about seeing strange lights in the sky near his rural property. Nothing extreme, just something unusual he mentioned to a few people locally. A few days later, there was a knock at his door. When he opened it, 2 men stood on the porch wearing dark suits and hats. Clean-shaven, formal, but oddly so. Not business formal, more like they had looked up how to dress like a man and stopped there. They didn't greet him casually. One of them began speaking immediately in a voice that was flat and measured, not robotic, but stripped of natural inflection. They asked about the lights he had seen, not aggressively, not threateningly, just calmly, but their phrasing felt slightly misplaced. They referred to what he saw as an aerial device. They described the sky as his atmospheric region. They paused at strange moments in conversation and maintained eye contact far longer than felt comfortable. The homeowner later said what disturbed him wasn't the questions themselves, it was how they stood. Too still, not weight shifting, no blinking, no small facial adjustments when listening, just fixed attention. And one of them held a faint smile that never really changed no matter what was being discussed. The conversation lasted only a few minutes. They suggested very politely that it would be best if he didn't continue speaking publicly about what he had seen. Not a direct threat, just a suggestion delivered without emotion. Then they left. He watched them walk towards a dark vehicle parked further down the road. He couldn't recall hearing the engine start. He couldn't remember a door closing, just that they were there and then they weren't. Over the years, similar reports surfaced across different states. Witnesses who described unusual sightings later reported visits from a well-dressed man or men whose behavior felt slightly misaligned, speech that was overly formal, questions that almost made sense but didn't quite land, smiles that didn't shift when the tone of the conversation changed. It was just behavioral wrongness. Nothing overtly supernatural happened, no glowing eyes, no dramatic vanishing, just social choreography that doesn't sync. Because when someone stands in your doorway and speaks clearly but misses emotional timing, your body notices even if your brain doesn't. When someone smiles and their eyes don't adjust, you notice. When someone maintains eye contact without blinking, you notice. The discomfort doesn't come from what they say, it comes from the feeling that you're interacting with someone who learned how to be human secondhand. If two men knocked on your door tonight, polite and composed but slightly off, would you recognize the difference between simply awkward or truly unnatural?
The paranormal chick here. So take a look at this footage that was captured from a news team that was covering a supposed UFO crash landing back in 2008 around the Needles, California area. Residents had been complaining and filing, reports that unidentified government vehicles were swarming the area. Basically, reports of men in black. Now, we've heard that throughout history, throughout research, reports of when people come in contact with these UAPs, UFOs, sometimes these men in black show up and are basically threatening. Take a look at this footage. We deserve to know the truth. No more threats, no more lies. We are seeing something out there, so what is it? The fear of men in black, it's not there anymore. So take a look and tell me what you think. Like, post, comment, repost, let me know.
On a ribbon of asphalt in the Nevada desert, a strange convoy of odd vehicles with darkened windows slides along in relative obscurity. There are no signs or placards to suggest who these guys are, but the telltale license plate says federal government. At a way station near Laughlin, the convoy pulled over to evaluate who we were, so we waited too. As we did, more of the mystery trucks zipped past. Since May, when an unknown object crashed near the Colorado River south of Needles, residents have reported seeing so-called men in black in unmarked vehicles.
I don't know if this is the most recent encounter, but I did have a follower send me a story and said that I have permission to share as long as I keep their identity anonymous. So we're just going to use a fake name. I'm going to call him Arnold. So Arnold claims that he was visited by the Men in Black at the end of 2019. It was mid-November, so it's almost exactly 2 years ago. Arnold claims that he lives in the woods and that there was a strange phenomenon going on every single night where there was a lot of animal life making a lot of strange noises that Arnold wasn't used to hearing. Arnold's dog that primarily lives outside also wouldn't go anywhere near the woods at night and would wait by the door. So eventually, even though the dog doesn't really usually go inside, Arnold just started letting the dog inside at nighttime. This was extremely strange behavior for this dog because usually you couldn't get him to come inside. One night, Arnold was doing dishes in his kitchen where the window faces out towards the woods. He says that he saw 3 orbs moving around in the woods, and they were glowing. He said at the time he thought they were flashlights, even though looking back after the fact, it would have been pretty obvious that they weren't. But I don't know, I guess sometimes your brain just tries to make things seem logical. So Arnold says he grabbed his gun and started just kind of creeping towards the woods, just to see if there were people getting ready to try to rob him or trespass on his property. Arnold claims that as he got closer, he actually ended up seeing 3 pairs of glowing eyes looking out of the woods. These weren't like coyotes or animals or anything that Arnold has ever seen before in his life. He made eye contact with one of these beings and said that the way that he would describe it is like a gray alien. Arnold claims that he started shooting towards them because, yes, he had his gun on him. And then he saw a big flash of light that pretty much blinded him for a second. He got knocked out, and then he woke up in the morning laying on his back, like midway into the woods. He wasn't really sure what happened. He thought he remembered correctly, but then he's like, I don't know, was that a dream? But if it was, how did I end up out here? Like, I don't understand. So Arnold started telling everybody in his town that would listen, and they all thought he was crazy, but, you know, that didn't really stop him from, like, going around and telling his story. Arnold claims that 2 days after this whole ordeal took place, the Men in Black showed up at knocking at his door. His descriptions of the Men in Black definitely, like, match what we described earlier. They were hairless men, no hair, no eyebrows, nothing like that. He said they had sickly, like, really, really pale skin and kind of, like, sunken-in eyes. Arnold claims that the Men in Black actually threatened him and told him that if he told this story one more time, he was going to have really, really bad things happen to him. They wouldn't go into detail about what that would be.
You guys, oh my God, watch this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's the South Mountain guy, and I'm right here in the Forbidden area. I'm up here with the archaeologist and the ranger, but there's another guy here. I've never seen him before. I've been out here for 2 weeks with these people, and I've never seen this guy. He's in all black sweats, black t-shirt, black hat. Looks like he has an iPad with him. But for some reason, every time I do a video, I'm going to release these videos, and you're going to wonder why they cut off. I'm going to tell you right now, I think that guy's an agent. And I think with that iPad or whatever he has in his hand, he's intercepting my videos, because every time I get into a video and start talking about what's up here, my video cuts off. Now, I have permission by the archaeologists and the rangers, but for some reason, this guy showed up today, and now my phone keeps shutting down right at the peak of my videos. It's your old homie, Mr. Black. Remember, you see me here a second, the South Mountain guy. Go with God. Peace.
I just sent it to her, and she was standing right behind me. She witnessed this whole thing. So when I sent it to her, her phone wasn't able to pick up the video, and at the same time, all the photographs that she took during the vacation were taken away too. It was just blank.
That's weird. We got the video. I downloaded it successfully, so it's going to be shared to the world. And I got a feeling hundreds of thousands of people are going to see this, and it's going to be making the circles around the world. So this is quite exciting, because the only time I've actually seen Men in Black was on a photograph, a surveillance camera, as these guys were approaching, walking in some kind of lobby.
In the front door of that hotel, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Now you got video.
Yes, I know exactly, because I was looking for some footage myself. You know what, Blake? People have to realize this stuff is for real. This stuff is happening to people. You shouldn't laugh when people tell you that stuff's happening.
These next encounters I'm going to go over are a little more bizarre and offer much stranger implications. On September 11th, 1976, Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a doctor living in Maine, was studying a UFO incident when he reportedly got a phone call from a man who identified himself as a representative of a New Jersey UFO organization. The man asked if Dr. Hopkins was alone and if they could review research. Dr. Hopkins agreed, and by the time he hung up the phone and turned on the lights outside, Dr. Hopkins claimed the man was somehow already coming up the stairs to his door. Hopkins' description of the man is the most horrifying yet. The man wore a neatly tailored black suit, was bald with no eyebrows or eyelashes, and had smooth, dead white plastic skin like a doll. His lips were ruby red, and his speech was expressionless and monotone, as if you were hearing a machine. The man in black told Hopkins to take out a coin and said, "Watch the coin." After that, Hopkins claims, quote, "It started to develop a silver color instead of copper, and then the silver became bluish, and the penny was getting quite fuzzy, out of focus, blurred, and then it simply was gone. It slowly dematerialized," end quote. After that, Hopkins said the man ordered him to destroy his UFO research. Encounter is with someone you probably know, Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
In January 2002, Dan Aykroyd sold a TV show called Out There to the Sci-Fi Network that would break serious ground on a wide range of topics in the alien media landscape. In the middle of conducting further interviews for the show, Dan stepped outside for a break where he reported seeing a black Ford sedan appear suddenly across the street. Dan reports that one large man in black got out of the car and gave Dan a dirty look. Dan said he looked away for a brief second, and when he turned back, the car was gone. 2 hours after the car disappeared, Dan was given bad news from the producers of the show. Dan said, quote, "We were told we were not to continue taping, and the show was canceled, and none of them would air," end quote.
My name is Joseph Spencer. From May 1970 to October 1997, I served the United States government as a top secret operative, but not in a category that is commonly known or understood. I was known as a man in black. Following 7 years acting as a counterintelligence agent for the CIA, I was recruited for a new assignment that entailed working within above top secret operations. I was aware of the black budget projects, but never knew the context of them, due to their high level of secrecy. Even the president was denied access to their inner workings. Annually, billions of dollars are poured into black projects, which operate without any supervision or intrusion. They have full autonomy. The operations deal primarily with advancing military technologies, most of which have been reverse engineered from recovered alien spacecrafts that had either crashed or were shot down by our military.
It's happening again. It's happening again.
I know. What the fuck?
Oh, Bruce,
What the hell is that? That's what happened. That's what happened. Yeah.
It's happening again. It's happening again.
I know. What the fuck?
Oh, Bruce,
What the hell was that?
The Aerial Phenomena Investigation Team received security footage in 2012 from the Sheraton Falls View Hotel in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. The footage captured two tall men wearing black trench coats, black fedora hats, walking into the hotel. This footage is the only known recording of what people have known to be the infamous Men in Black, who have been associated with covering up UFO sightings. Now in 2012, the hotel's manager Shane Savar and another security guard reported seeing a UFO outside the hotel's windows. A couple of weeks after this sighting, these two mysterious men visited the hotel and searched for Savar and the other guard in an attempt to confront them. But fortunately, the two were both absent from work at the time. Now those who encountered the strange men described them as having extremely pale skin, no hair, no eyelashes or eyebrows. And despite the interest surrounding this footage, I find it weird that there's no video of the Men in Black entering or leaving the hotel from the outside. Now this raises questions about the hotel's security system and whether it only has one camera in the lobby. What do you guys think? The Men in Black have not been seen at the hotel since, and the motives behind their visit remain a mystery.
more video for today.
Asked, is it true that the Men in Black showed up?
I was wondering if somebody would ever ask that question. There was a group of 4 guys that came in. Black hats, black sunglasses, black suits. Asking, and this is what scared the crap out of everybody, because they were asking who had all seen the video. But nobody would say nothing. Because, like I said, if we talked about it, we'd lose our jobs. So nobody would talk to anybody. And the guy that I worked with, he was like, hey, let's go back here in the maintenance room. He said, because he said, I don't trust these guys. They look weird. They look off. They just had like a vibe about them. And it's like, and what I felt when they came up, because they got something to drink, and I was like, yeah. When they were asking, like, who had all seen the video? What did it look like? And nobody would say anything. And they stayed around for about, I want to say about 30 minutes or so, acting like they were looking around or acting like they were playing the machines. But what they were doing was trying to get information.
Just for the people that are they're gonna say, well, why didn't you ask her what they look like? So you said that they had, basically black attire on. A lot of people say Men in Black kind of look like their ears are weird, their faces are. Did you see anything like that? They're a little pale.
No, they weren't. No, that's what we thought. That's why we thought they were weird, because they didn't look like they had the black glasses on, so you couldn't see their eyes. But their hats came down. They had like the little, I don't know what they're called, not fedoras but they had the little hats. You couldn't see their ears. And you couldn't see their hair.
That's interesting. Yeah, because that's been
what color their hair was, if they had hair.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy that's been kind of been kicked around about this tape, about this footage, and all the aftermath of everything. Is I had heard the Men in Black thing too. Why do you think they would show up if that was them?
But see, I never really wanted to say anything about that, because I didn't think anybody would believe me. They would be like, oh, now you're just making stuff up. And no, they showed up more than once. And sometimes it would be 2 guys, sometimes it'd be 3 guys, sometimes there'd be 4, and sometimes there would even be 1. But you could always tell, because they never took their glasses off. And in a casino, yes, there is flashing lights and stuff, but in the evening time when the lights are dimmed, you still can't see with that dark glasses on.
That's creepy.
And
That's so creepy.
And they had gloves on. They never took their gloves off.
Were they tall? Uh-oh. Oh, man, guys. Uh-oh. All right, for everybody that's listening on the back end, we're talking about Men in Black at the Concho Casino, and Rebecca's gone, zapped. I'm a little spooked out. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. My spidey senses are going off at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me today. Again, write me a comment. What do you think of the Men in Black? Do you have a Men in Black story of your own? Do you know anybody who's ever met the Men in Black? Let me know. I'd be very interested. See you guys next time. Stay spooky. Bye.